Hello, welcome everyone. Coming to you from Ontario, Canada. We're bringing to you the broadcast. I'm Suze, also known on Twitter as Suze Creamy. With me today are my co-hosts. First, we have Tammy, and she is also known as UCG or Unacceptable Canadian Girl. Tammy, how are you?
I am excellent. Thank you for asking. Super happy to be here.
Just want to make sure you got your tinfoil hat on today, right?
I sleep with it on, so yep.
Oh, of course. Okay, good. Also with us, we have our other co-host, Ash, known as Ash Laugh 79 or Unacceptable Views. Ash, how are you doing today?
Hello, everyone. I am doing great. Ready to get
And
into some real conspiracies here.
Awesome. And you obviously have your tinfoil hat on too, correct?
I also sleep with mine as well, and my bed is made of foil.
Oh, even better.
That's like you get super signal with that.
I went all in.
All in. Is it comfortable though? Is it comfortable?
Not at all. But neither is living in Canada.
This is true. This is very true.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Well, so the broadcast. What are we here? What are we doing here, ladies? What are we doing? I'll tell you why I'm here.
We are here to raise awareness about the world and the shithole we live in Canada and all of the conspiracies.
I am here.
I think also to bring some light and humor to the world, because we also need that in these troubled, dark times. So, we might as well laugh about it while we're here.
I agree.
I love it. However, I am here solely to spread misinformation. Obviously.
Everything that comes out of our mouths.
Canada's one and only Russian bot.
That's me, here to spread you nothing but Russian propaganda.
Well, we certainly heard your dear leader the other day on Tucker Carlson.
Yes.
Trudeau was not happy about that.
Of course not.
No, I feel like that's a whole episode of a podcast that we need to do on that.
Definitely.
Yeah, we will definitely touch on that interview because it was quite entertaining. I'd say.
But mostly today we decided that it would be good for our first podcast episode to delve a little bit into who we are and kind of what brought us here to making a podcast, what brought us to X, formerly known as Twitter, because that's
Am
how
I the
we
only
all
one
met.
that still calls it Twitter? I refuse to call it X. Is that just me?
I actually decided that I'm gonna tip my hat and start calling it X because it's the only place that we have for free speech right now. So if it's X,
is it free speech though? Is it?
It's the free speech we have. Nothing in this world is free.
I was going to keep calling it Twitter, but Ashley just guilted me into now calling it X, so I guess I'm going with X.
Well, Ash, unfortunately, you have not converted me yet. I will still be calling it Twitter.
You get an X.
I do sometimes call it Twitter X, but I don't know. I can't. It's sort of like how I can't call the Sky Dome the Rogers Center. Like, no, I'm sorry. It's forever the Sky Dome.
I hear you.
Well, and what do you call your posts now? I used to say I got to tweet something out. Now, what do you say? I have to X that out? It sounds so stupid.
I say post.
Yeah, I do still say tweet, or I'll say post.
I don't know about retweet though. I still say retweet.
But I feel like if you say post, nobody knows what platform you're talking about. You could be posting on Facebook. You could be posting on what are other I don't have social media other than X, but what are other social things? Instagram, whatever it is. Yeah, so you could be posting from anywhere. I feel like Elon needs to make something up. Elon, if you are listening to this podcast, probably never fucking happened.
Oh, he's listening. You know he's listening.
We need something.
We are aware of that.
Oh boy, he's not.
Anyways, I feel like we just went on a rant about that, and we were kind of just getting into what we're here for. Yeah.
So why is everyone here?
Get to know
what are you doing here?
are you? Who am I? Apparently, I'm a fake Russian bot, so I'm nobody. I don't know. I'm here to spread misinformation, like I said.
Well, since
Okay,
you're Canada's only fake Russian bot, I think it's only fair that you go first.
I'm sure I'm not the only one. There's a whole slew of us Russian bots out there in
Yeah,
Canada.
don't forget about Spire.
Yeah, of course. Fire is he's my Russian bot buddy. All right. I am Suze Creamy. I live in Ontario, which is Ontario, southwestern Ontario. Born and raised, been here my whole life. What brought me here? Like what brought me to Twitter X, whatever you want to call it. So I was working for an organization for almost 17 years. And we were working from home during the pandemic. They had started us working from home pretty much right as soon as they declared it a pandemic. And then in summer of 2021, when Ford and all these other premiers and everything were starting to implement these vax passports and stuff like that, a lot of the organizations started to do the same, where they were requiring this vaccine pass sort of thing to be able to continue working. You were either going to get laid off, or you were going to be put on unpaid leave, or terminated altogether. So that fight with my employer kind of started around, I want to say, end of July of 2021. We knew that we had to like attest and show proof that we were double jabbed. I believe it was by the end of October of that year. So I started my fight with them. I was unionized, so I kind of had to go through the union. I couldn't just do it separately with a lawyer or anything like that. But I started to give them, notices of notice of assessments. I wanted to see I wanted to provide what's it called, like informed consent. I had all these questions. I was like, I need all these questions answered regarding the jabs. I need all these questions answered regarding the tests. They refused to answer anything. It was basically just for me to like sort of start building a case, really, when the time came that I got fired, so I would have all this paper trail of what I was trying to do.
And
Tried to change. Yeah.
what sector were you in? Like, you don't have to say where you worked, of course, but what sector?
So I was in the healthcare sector. So even though I was working from home, literally sitting at a desk with nobody, I was automatically labeled as a frontline worker,
Wow.
which was stupid. Like, I remember even my union rep saying, like, "You're a frontline worker." I'm like, I sit at my kitchen table. Like, who am I giving COVID to? My cat? Like, come on, right? He's like, "Oh, but just because you're in this field, you're considered a frontline worker." I'm like, "Okay, but you understand like how ridiculous that sounds. I literally see nobody, right?" Um, so it was home care, healthcare, and that's when they had implemented the government of Ontario implemented Directive 6, which all the healthcare hospitals, etc., fell under that directive. And within that directive, it said, that they had to put in a policy in place that required their employees and volunteers, etc., to be um, fully jabbed with 2 doses. By whatever date. But the directive also did have other options in it, right? It said in the directive, it said if the employee does not want to be vaccinated for any reason, the employer can then request just weekly testing, right? And again, which would make no sense for somebody who's working from home. Like, why do I need to submit a weekly test to you when I'm not coming in to any office or anything like that, right? But in the directive, the government gave the option for these organizations to opt out of that option. So it said directly in there, it said, however, organizations can basically void this option. So all the healthcare agencies ignored that option. If they had any form of market share directly with the government, they removed that option. It was like full compliance or you're gone. Where I now actually work for another healthcare agency who did not void that option. They don't have direct market share. So they really almost don't have as much to lose, I guess, is why they
Funny.
decided to.
Funny how that works.
Exactly, right? So I have
Follow
this
the money.
conspiracy. Yeah, I have this conspiracy that all these agencies were maybe offered additional funding if they could show 100% compliance. Now, again, this is my conspiracy. Um, my
Well, if
tinfoil
the
hat tingles quite a bit regarding that. I do believe it because otherwise, why? Why can't you? I was a long-standing employee. I had an impeccable record. It's not like I was some shit employee that was getting in trouble all the time. I was a team leader, for fuck's sakes. And it was like and I was sitting at home, like I wasn't seeing anybody, right? So there was absolutely no reasoning for them to say you have to be fully jabbed in order to keep your employment, right? So I was
well,
put on a leave of absence at the end of October of 2021. Sorry, go ahead.
if the last 3 years have taught us anything, it's that most conspiracies are true,
Mm-hmm.
and if they're not fully true, there's some truth to them. So you're probably right.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel very strongly about that. So I was put on a leave end of October, and then I had, it was like 4 weeks or something to change my mind. So it was an unpaid leave, and then at that point, um, I think they gave me an extension, like, oh, 1 more week, we're gonna extend it to this date for you to
Thanks.
comply, right? Type shit, right? And then obviously, I didn't comply, and I was then terminated with cause. And with that came, I wasn't able to apply for unemployment because I was denied because I was terminated with cause. And then I, started going down the road.
Suze,
Yes.
what's the cause?
Uh, Failing to
You
comply
remember?
to organization policy or something like that,
Hmm.
which was stupid because it was like this policy was not a part of my original contract. You can't
Right.
unilaterally just change this without offering me fresh consideration, which is like offer me something. First of all, you didn't do that, or
Hmm.
assume liability. You can't do any of those two things. So why am I going to do a permanent thing for a job that's not permanent? Because we all know no job is permanent, right?
Right.
The organization could go bankrupt a year later, and there I lose my job anyways. You're going to take the vaccine with you? No. I might as well get the company logo tattooed on my arm. At least that I can actually remove. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
that was their cause, right? So then I, had to start going down the path of and fighting the whole thing with my union because I was unionized and I didn't have that was the only option, right? And that's another reason why I was doing all that paperwork and submitting all this stuff because the union at the time was not being very it's like they weren't supporting me. It was almost like they were working with the organization when they're supposed to be working with me, right? They're supposed to be working with my best interests in mind, not the organizations, right? So unions are a fucking joke. Um, so I started down that path, and I got terminated. It was beginning of December of 2021. So that month was kind of I did kind of slip into somewhat of a dark place. Um, just knowing that had happened to me, that was my job for almost 17 years, and you realize that it means nothing. At the end of the day, you're literally just a number, and none of that shit matters. And I started to worry about finances and this and that, but it was something that I wasn't going to bend for, right? But
Hmm.
I did kind of start to slip into like a dark place. I had certain friends and not so much family members because I'm thankfully a good portion of my family are all on the same page as me. Um, thank God. But there was like the odd family member that was kind of like, just get vaccinated, like just do it. And I'm like, no, like, like no. So I kind of, in a sense, was starting to feel like kind of alone. And that's exactly what kind of brought me to Twitter. Cause like I am on other social media platforms. I was on TikTok and a lot of it was just, for the fun of it, just like a creative kind of outlet. Um, and I was on Instagram and Facebook and whatever. Now my TikTok was like very different content and my Instagram was very different content. So a part of me, and I had built my TikTok up like to a substantial, following. And I didn't want to just kind of shift my content completely. I was like, that's not what this page was built for. So that kind of, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna come to Twitter. Nobody knows me there. I can say whatever the fuck I want, and like that's that. And then that's that. I think I joined, a few days after Christmas that year, and it's where I found my people. And I was like, oh look, there's so many other people that are dealing with the same shit, and kind of started to feel like we need to build these communities of like-minded people, because shit is continuously hitting the fan, and we need to have that sense of community of people that we know we can count on and turn to, and because we can't just go at it alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like a sense of what brought me to Twitter, and then what brought me to the podcast specifically, like I said, was the spread of misinformation. No, I'm kidding. No, bring some like Ash, like you said, bring laughter to the shitty situations that we're dealing with, but also bring awareness, because there's a lot going on that people still don't know. Like they still don't know, or they don't want to know, or they don't understand the severity of them just putting their head in the sand and hoping somebody else will take care of it. How much damage that really causes, right?
There's a lot of cognitive dissonance still, which is shocking.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't want to face reality.
Absolutely.
And imagine too, like I did a post earlier this morning, actually, kind of about people not being able to connect the dots, and there was some comments made on the post that kind of, I don't know, they made me start to think too, like, imagine being jabbed right now and seeing the sudden death, the turbo cancers, all of those things. To a certain extent, you probably don't want to admit it to yourself.
Yeah,
Well, and
sure.
I don't even know if they are seeing those things, because if you're still following like the mainstream media, you're not being exposed to that.
That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, like the mainstream media, like CTV News, is not like, oh, sudden death happened, but like no, they're not reporting that like at all.
And like what I'm seeing, like one of the most common denominators that I see is that the people around me, they say they don't have time, like they're just too busy in their own lives to to kind of do their own research, or whatever you want to say. So
I had a
they
conversation with
trust the mainstream media.
I had a conversation with a coworker who has 2 young children, and she said to me, I see what's going on. I do see the nonsense, and I see the slow burn that this country is in, but it gives me anxiety. So I put my head down and I ignore it. And it's shit like that actually pisses me off, because I'm like, I said to her, I go, you allowing your anxiety, you remaining ignorant because of your anxiety is only causing more damage to your
Only going to
kids.
make it worse. Yeah.
Like, it's your kids' future, not yours. You'll be gone, but your kids are still going to be here. What is it you want to leave to them? Right? Like, get over your anxiety and do it for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If nobody else, for them.
Absolutely. The path is only getting darker.
Right?
The longer
Exactly.
we let it go. Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of time left. Honestly, we don't.
No, because they keep implementing new legislation that is, hampering our ability to be able to speak out against it. So the time is nigh. Just
So that's a little bit of my backstory. I could go on for longer, but you don't want to hear this Russian bot for too long. Who's next?
Hold on. I've got a question. Have you ever heard from your employer again?
Yes, actually, I have. I have heard from them. So I did actually do a post about that a few months back. They sent me a letter. A little bit more of a backstory. So I got terminated December 2021. They remained working from home until July of 2022. They didn't even bring anybody back into the office until July of 2022. So again, made no sense for anybody to have to be vaccinated. Directive 6 was retracted in March of 2022. So the directive wasn't even in place anymore. Then I received a letter. I wish I had it on front of me right now, but I don't. That they had dropped their COVID-19 vaccination policy and were now inviting me to apply. Go
To
fuck
apply.
yourself. Yeah,
Wow.
to apply. To lose all my seniority, start at the bottom, and apply.
Wow.
Yeah. You
Fantastic.
get
What does loyalty get you these days?
Nothing.
Nothing.
right? I had a friend
Absolutely nothing.
who was working there as well, who wasn't in a unionized position, and she was there double the amount of years I was there. She was also terminated. She is, still fighting that fight as well with it, but she had to, actually hire a lawyer and everything like that. And she got the same letter, and she was fucking pissed. She was like so insulted, like, how dare you, send me this after 30 plus years of employment and
No
think for a
kidding.
second and invite me to apply. Like, go
Wow.
Yeah.
I heard though that across the board, like I heard from a lot of people over COVID, and a lot of people from, or not from unions, but that were in unionized environments were saying the same thing. And it didn't matter what sector they were in, the unions did not have their back. So I'd be actually very curious to see who funds them. And if there's anybody listening right now who was part of a union and lost their job as a result of COVID mandates, please, when we drop this episode, if you experience something similar, leave it in the comments, because I for one would like to do some research and see exactly who's funding them.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we all know these unions are not just making money off union dues. There's funding coming elsewhere for sure.
Well, wasn't it Luna in Hamilton that was doing the Fauci talk that got canceled? I might be wrong about that, but I don't think I am. I'm positive. I can look back at my tweets, but I know Anthony Fauci was supposed to come to Hamilton, and I am positive it was Luna, the laborers union, that was hosting it. Anyways, we can carry on. I'll take a look through my tweets and see if I can find it, and that's maybe something we should come back to at some point during the episode.
I'm just going to interject here too, because you mentioned about dropping a comment below, but also we should probably drop our Twitter handle or X handle. So we are at Broadcast Trio. So if anyone is just seeing this wherever we're posting this, we're also on X/Twitter at Broadcast Trio.
Thank you, Vanna.
The end.
Thank you.
There are no more vowels.
All right, let's hear your story, Ash, since you're chatty McChat over there.
Well, geez, I think I signed up for Twitter in, I believe it was 2017, but I never used it. Like, I think the first person I followed was the Dalai Lama, because I just thought that was hilarious that the Dalai Lama was on Twitter. But I have since unfollowed the Dalai Lama.
You're like, fuck you, Dalai Lama.
Yeah.
Well, didn't he get grabby with some women?
Yes, and a kid.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I used to be a fairly head in the sand type of ostrich, and I didn't realize that I was.
Did you know that ostriches actually don't put their head in the sand? Did you know that?
I did not know that.
I feel deceived.
Well, thanks for fucking up my metaphor.
No problem. Anytime. Carry on.
So I think I was well on the way to being a pretty good little socialist comrade. I actually am gonna put this out there right off the get-go. I voted for Trudeau in 2015. I am so sorry.
What the fuck, Ash. No.
You know what though? I actually listened to like one of his speeches from 2015, and I'm like, well, fuck, that's why I voted for him. I would still vote for the person that said that today. He just didn't follow through on anything, and is not at all what he claimed to be at the time.
Well, and this is the thing with politicians in general. Like they will say whatever they need to say.
Yep.
And then go back on everything.
Exactly.
I don't care what anybody says. And that
They're-
goes for politicians across the fucking board.
Yep.
They're professionally paid liars. That's what
Yeah.
they are.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, I guess if anything, I am a light at the end of the tunnel type of story, because we can learn new tricks, us dogs. And you know, I've woken up since, and man, what a dark freaking path it was to start realizing how lied to I was. But
Yeah.
definitely, like, even at the beginning of COVID and the lockdowns, I was a good little commie, and I complied like fully and completely. I was very duped, and we would sit down, we would watch Trudeau's address, we would watch Ford's address.
I kind of did the same thing at the very, very
and like
beginning.
we were like some of the worst for it, like as far as like really complying with everything. But it also helped that, you know, we liked where we live. I live in a small little town in northern Ontario, so being at home wasn't such a it wasn't a heartache. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, there were certain things that just started like cropping up and causing us to question things. But then we're like, well, you know, this is just such a new thing that's happening, this pandemic. Like, you can't expect them to get everything right. They're doing their best. And, you know, hear Trudeau talking about moistly speaking and just being like, that sounds creepy, but still being like, okay, well.
What actually made me like fully wake up? The second I decided to stop watching the news.
Huh.
Because once I was even talking to like a few friends the other day about it. And it's like, okay, once you stop watching the news, you all of a sudden just gain this different perspective on everything that's going on around you.
Mm-hmm.
Like me and my husband were talking about that. And it's like, you just see everything differently. You do not see the propaganda whatsoever. It's not tricking your brain to see whatever it is they want you to see. And you just, it's like this light switch gets flipped, and you start seeing everything for potentially what it actually is, or what could be.
Because what do you know? You have to think for yourself for once.
Exactly, right? So the minute you turn that off, and you just start analyzing all these different things on your own, and you're like, let me look into this way, let me look at it this way, and you start piecing things together, like Tammy was saying, connecting these dots, right? And that's when all of a sudden you're like, well, holy shit. What the fuck's been going on, right? So that was like a major turning point for me.
Ashley, what were some of the things that you guys saw that didn't seem right to you that you guys ignored? Because that's important for people that, I mean, I hope that at some point we have listeners that maybe aren't fully awake that will hear this and be like, oh shit. So I think it's just important that we touch on those things.
For sure. Well, okay. So a lot of the inconsistencies, like that big box stores were allowed to let as many people in as they wanted, but there were limits for the small businesses. And it's like, well, that doesn't make sense, because a small business could police the people going in and out, and whether they're masking up better than a big box store. So it was like that type of incongruency was it didn't make sense. And then the things like when we were finally able to go into Costco, we do home reno. So I went to go buy a toilet at Costco, and the toilets were walled off by boxes of chocolate chip cookies. The toilets,
so you could buy the cookies,
yeah,
but you couldn't buy the
toilets.
Toilet.
toilets were non-essential, but cookies were essential.
So you could have a snack, but not a
You
poop.
tell me, how many
you're not allowed
cookies
to
do you
poop.
need to eat?
You gotta
Yep.
poop in the bucket outside. Well, wait,
Yep.
the bucket is also not essential. So dig a hole.
How many? Yep. How many cookies do you need to eat before that toilet becomes essential? So, things like that, or like the fact that you're locking kids at home, but the toys are walled off. You're not allowed to have toys for kids.
Yeah.
You're not
I
allowed to buy
remember my
greeting
friend-
cards for people.
My friend lives in Quebec, and they actually implemented all that bullshit, but like before they did it here in Ontario, where like certain things you couldn't buy because it wasn't essential, right? It was wintertime, and she has young boys, and her son lost his gloves or something like that, is snow gloves, right? And she goes to the store to buy him new. She couldn't even buy him gloves. I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" She's like, "I was not allowed to touch the gloves. How am I supposed to get my glove? Like, my kid can't even go outside and build a snowman now because he has no gloves." It was ridiculous.
And we have a smoker here, a pellet smoker, and I went to go buy pellets, and they were blocked off, and it's like, I'm cooking food. You're telling me that's non-essential? Like,
well, you grab a lighter and you fire up those crickets and you have your meal, okay?
Eat those crunchy bugs.
Yeah.
So
if you were
things
eating
like
crickets,
that,
it wouldn't have been a problem.
Yeah, I know, it was my fault. And then I guess the big thing was, my husband and I, I'm saying we, that's my hubby. I'm a woman and I'm married to a man, a real man.
How do we know this? Are you a biologist?
Yeah. Are you a biologist? Can we see your credentials, please?
He's got a dick.
This sounds like gender bias. This is gender bias.
So, anyways, we were all in. We were going to get the jabs, but we're actually like kind people, I guess. So we're like, well, at that time there was a short supply, so we're like, we need the people who need the most to get them first. So we'll wait a little bit, and it was then as we waited that I started like, yeah, right. Kind of insane to think of how much I've changed. So then I started looking into it a little bit, things started popping up because, we're like, okay, well, we're like, we don't really need it where we are, but, like we should do it. It was the whole thing, like, do this for grandma, do this for other people, not for us. We felt like our immune systems were great, but it was for other people. That propaganda worked on us. But then, when it came time to start like really deciding if we were going to do it, that's actually when they started like really pushing it and making it like, if it wasn't for them like getting more forceful with it and starting to like offer free donuts or like freaking French fries and all this stuff,
free
like
donuts.
that's what made me start questioning it, was their reaction to people not taking it. So then I started doing some poking around, and then found the Dark Horse podcast with Brett Weinstein and Heather Hying, and Brett had Dr. Robert Malone and Steve Kirsch on, and holy schmoly, hearing that podcast episode just
changed your life?
Yeah, it changed my life and sent me down a real dark rabbit hole. Realizing just how much I was duped. So, and then the idea of like even trying to talk about it with other people and seeing how I was being shut down was so unexpected. So then it was like, that you try to find like the sort of like air quotes facts to help other people understand, and they're not there because back then all of those good people were censored. So yeah, we ended up, kind of like doing more and more of our own sort of research as we have to do, and ended up going to the truckers convoy in Ottawa, and just kind of, really started finding our people. So I had been on X or Twitter since 2017, but I wasn't even like a part of the whole OG group that was, standing up against it. It was only kind of like around the trucker convoy time that I started like paying attention to the Canadians around me and kind of getting involved then. And here we are now. I'm just a good little tinfoiler along with the rest
Welcome to
of
the
you.
dark
Yes.
side.
Well,
Yeah, thanks.
we love you being on the conspiracy side.
Yeah,
Me too. It's way more fun over here.
right?
So now, quick question: did all three of us all attend at some point the convoy in Ottawa?
I
The witch?
sadly did not
Oh.
get to.
Oh, okay. So I did go. I actually made it there the weekend right before the troops came in to trample
Me
people
too.
with horses.
We were there at the
that
same time. Yep.
What?
And we went the weekend after, but we were watching Viva Fry, his live stream, and seeing like when the EA got invoked and seeing how they cracked down, and we just sat in our hotel room, just shocked at what our
Wow.
government was doing to our good citizens. So we didn't end up like actually going downtown until well, we didn't go downtown that weekend, and it was kind of neat because we ended up driving home with some of the trucks that were leaving and kind of followed the convoy for a little bit on our way home, which was very bittersweet. It was very sad. Yeah. So that's me.
Well, we're
So
glad to have
people,
you on the dark side.
there is hope. People can wake up. Don't dismiss those who haven't woken up yet, because I'll tell you, now knowing what I do, I'm all the more dedicated to spreading, spreading the word. And that's part of why I wanted to do this podcast, is because I hate how duped I was, and I never want to be that way again. So I want to be able to meet other people and other guests, and like just keep these conversations going so that we can all stay informed.
Yep. Awesome.
How about you, Tammy?
Tammy, talk to us, Tammy.
What's your story?
Oh my gosh. So I'm like a mixed bag. And I say that because I had a very awake father. Because I lost him in 2019, almost a year to the day actually, that the pandemic kind of started. And so from childhood, he was always teaching me different things and always kind of getting me to question everything, which looking back is hilarious now, because anybody that follows me or that knows me well knows that my mom is the complete opposite and is basically in love with Trudeau. She adores him. She can't be shaken from it. So I mean, they did split up when I was about 18, for what I hope now are obvious reasons to everybody else. But yeah, so I had a dad that was just always questioning things and teaching me to question things. And he was a naturalist. He studied herbology. So he kept us far, far, far away from pharma, and that caused a lot of arguments in our household. And I say that, but I do have, even though my mom loves Trudeau, I love my mom. She's a great person. She's an awesome mom. And same thing about my dad. So they just obviously they shared different views. So it just didn't work for them. But it wasn't anything toxic or anything like that. They actually got along until the day that he died. So just to clear that up. But there was a lot of arguments over big pharma in our household, and getting vaccinated as children. And my dad shielded us from that. I remember getting letters home from school saying that we were going to be suspended if we didn't get certain vaccines or stuff like that. So that caused me.
I have gotten those letters recently about my own children.
Yep. That was a huge thing in our childhood, and I have several siblings, so I mean it happened to all of us. But he was our shield, and there was no way he was letting them touch us with it, which I, at this point in time, am super thankful for.
No kidding.
And then just small things, even growing up, where like if we had a sickness, he didn't run out and get us Advil or cold syrup or anything like that. He treated us with all natural things. So that's why you'll see a lot of my posts are about, hey, if you have this, try using this or this, because I learned at a very young age that there's a cure for everything. We just have to kind of find it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it started for me. As I grew up, I questioned a lot of things. 9/11, I questioned at a very young age. And honestly, I've spent a few weeks knowing that we were going to be doing this podcast, kind of thinking about this and what caused me to even question that. And I don't remember what it was. I remember them wheeling the TV out to the front of the high school on 9/11. And I just remember something didn't seem right to me. And that's when I got into like Loose Change. And I don't know if you guys know those documentaries, but I think there's 4 or 5 of them now. If you haven't watched them, highly recommend. But it basically, questions everything and, planes leave wreckage and just little things like that.
Sounds like I have some homework.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. They're very, very, very well done documentaries and definitely eye openers.
What's it called again, Tammy? Loose Change?
Yeah, Loose Change. And I know the full documentaries are all available on YouTube. But definitely worth a watch.
Commie too? Really? Wow.
Yeah. Actually, I just rewatched them maybe 6 or 7 months ago. Yeah. Anyway, so all that to say, COVID hit, and I was kind of in a bad spot still because it had only been a year since I lost my father. So I was, emotionally probably not in the greatest place. I was really just kind of not myself. And so when COVID hit, in the beginning, I didn't really question it like I would question anything else. I actually had a vacation booked. I was supposed to leave
So did
on
I.
April. Yeah.
April 4th?
I was April 6th.
Oh, mine was April 4th. And I swear to God, 3 weeks before we were leaving, I'm like, this is fine. We're still going. No, we're going.
I was doing the same thing. I was doing the same thing. And my friend, she's like a crazy, crazy liberal to this day. Well, actually, we really don't talk much anymore. But
I was just going to say, you guys are still friends?
No, not really. But she was like, I don't know, like this doesn't seem good. And I kept going like, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll probably go away. But then it didn't go away. And next thing I know, they canceled the vacation and like the company that we booked through. So that's when I was kind of, I don't want to say I fully believed it, but I started to get kind of scared a little bit and go, oh, like maybe this is really bad. And then I want to say just after that, for probably about a month, I went psycho. I went full liberal psycho. I was spraying down my groceries. I was like, it was actually insane. I didn't wear gloves. I never did the double mask thing or anything like that. But I for sure was terrified. And I specifically remember yelling at somebody at a grocery store for getting too close to me.
I was so nervous. The first time I went out after lockdowns to go buy groceries, I was so nervous. I drove through a red light.
Yeah,
like the virus was everywhere.
Yeah, it was intense. I remember walking down the street and actually crossing the street when people were coming down the sidewalk at me. And
I could have hit you.
Right?
We were in the same town.
I feel like I wasn't as crazy as the two of you. I did like wipe my groceries, but that was short-lived.
Suze, are you rethinking this podcast now?
But all that
I did get yelled. I was the person Tammy was yelling at the grocery store for getting too long.
But that only lasted for me for probably, I don't even think, a month. And then and like I said, I wasn't in a really good emotional state. So it's a really weird time for me.
Yeah.
But then what was I? Oh, I was reading an article one day, and I wish I could remember this doctor's name because I would love to follow him on Twitter or X if he's on there, or any platform if he's on there. But he was a doctor from London, Ontario, and he was one of the first doctors to speak out. And I remember reading kind of a paper that he did. And at the end of the paper, he said, masks do nothing other than create an expressionless society. And when I read it, I snapped out of everything. It was almost instant, where I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I stopped wearing a mask. I think I only wore a mask for about a month. Now, my workplace, so and this is where things really started to come into question for me too, was I actually cover a territory. So I'm an area manager. And during COVID, because of the job that I do, I was actually responsible for all of the COVID cases in my area. So we would get what was called an intake form when somebody got COVID, and we had to process it and, make sure that the areas got cleaned and all this other stuff. So I read that article from that doctor, but then also I've got this stuff going on at work where I'm seeing, I want to say upwards of 1,000 people get COVID, and nobody ever dropped dead. Nothing happened to these people. These people, in fact, one of the people that got COVID, I actually, while they were on their COVID leave, I saw them at the mall. So this is where I really started to kind of question things. So it started with this Dr. Tony something. I can't remember his last name, but
Not
then I
Fauci.
started, definitely not Fauci. But that's where I started to kind of really question things. And on top of that, I was deemed essential. So because I have an area, I'm traveling between, 14 stores, and I'm seeing a different person, 150 people every single day that are all different. And I'm not getting sick. So all of that really started to make me question COVID. And then I had gotten rid of social media sometime before that. I think for no particular reason other than I kind of wanted to break from it. So I used to have, like Facebook, Instagram, whatever they are. I don't have them anymore, but I was really starting to feel the loneliness set in when they started saying that the vaccines were coming. And initially, I didn't feel too lonely because my friends were all kind of on the same page in the sense of, we're going to wait. We'll give it some time. Let's kind of see how this goes and whatever. I knew immediately I did not want it. I don't know why or how, but I had this knowing inside of me that was, I will never be getting this. But then my friends who kind of stood up in the beginning all started dropping like flies in the sense of, next thing I knew, that, oh, well, we're going to wait a year. They went out 2 weeks later and got the vaccine. So now they're all vaxxed. I'm the only unvaxxed. And I start to feel kind of that loneliness set in. And, I think probably where it really hit me, and this is kind of where I started, I had ended up joining Twitter, was my very best friend. She actually called me one day, and we were planning on doing something, and I couldn't go because at this point now they had started to implement vaccine rules, passports and things like that.
Yeah.
And we've been friends for years and years and years. And I was crying on the phone, and she actually said, well, your choices have consequences. And it was so cold. And just not the friend that I knew, that I just hung up and I sobbed for hours.
Aww.
And
I want to hug that Tammy.
It was a lonely place to hear things like that. I remember that Christmas too. My husband and I got excluded, us and another couple, from our annual Christmas party. And these are friends my husband had for like 30 years, right? And it was all because the party was for the vaccinated only. And then I lost my shit. And the host decided, apparently he was pressured to do that from other members of the friendships. And he decided to cancel the entire party. He's like, if we can't all be together, then we're not doing it. Whether or not they turned around and did it behind our backs, I don't know. And I have never seen those people since. I think my husband has maybe spoken to a couple of them since, but we haven't even seen them since.
It
The
was
loneliness that came from that was astounding, just
yeah,
that feeling of being othered and being we started joking around about it being called plague rats, but, like,
yeah.
we were treated like plague rats by some people, others not so much, but, it kind of took our breath away, and that's when, when we ended up going to the convoy and being around all of these loving people and just being welcomed in and hugged again by strangers, and just the high energy and happiness and the dancing and the celebrating was so incredible. Like,
Yeah,
I
Tammy,
can't
you missed out. You
even
missed out. It was
describe the the elation that we felt after such a dark period, and that's when,
it was
it
beautiful. It
really
really
started seeing how we were portrayed by the mainstream media for being a part of that movement was like, "Wait, what?" Like, we were watching, Viva Fry's live streams first, and we're like, "Oh, this looks amazing," everyone's having such a great time, and then seeing, what the CBC was reporting and the rest, um, it was like, "Well, we have to go see that for ourselves because
Yeah,
this is
that's
not
exactly
at
why I went. I was
all."
like, I need to
Yeah.
see this with my own eyes, and I swear to God, like the only way to describe it was like this big, huge Canada Day festival. It was like the
Yeah.
most
Yep.
like I never felt so Canadian, and in that moment, I actually felt like I remember going to one of the overpasses. I think I went to an overpass in I think it was Woodbridge, to watch the trucks go by or whatever. And just even there, even on that bridge with all those people, it's like all of a sudden I felt this. I felt proud to be Canadian again
Yeah.
because I had
That's
felt
yeah.
so low about my country and what was happening to it. And I was like, I don't even want to tell people I'm Canadian right now. And all of a sudden that was happening. And I was like, oh, I'm proud again. I'm proud to be Canadian again.
Yep.
And just
That was the
being
most
there, it
proud
was
I've
just like,
ever felt to be
yeah.
Canadian.
And it was such a great feeling. Like you said, I was literally hugging complete strangers that I've
Mhm.
never seen before in my life, but we were there for the exact same purpose and we had the exact same goal. And it didn't matter. And there were people there that were vaccinated, but they still didn't agree with, the mandates and whatever was going on. It was the only way to describe it is it was a beautiful, beautiful, touching movement that
Yep.
true Canadians really did feel like to their core.
Mhm. Mhm.
Tammy, you missed out. Why didn't you know?
I know, I know.
What the fuck?
I had nobody to go with.
So I
Nobody.
went with I went
Um,
with a bunch of like random friends that like I didn't even know well. I was like, "Oh, hey, you want to go to Ottawa? Yeah, you want to go to Okay, let's do it." And we just went.
I had planned to go, so I actually took vacation the last week that the convoy was happening, and had convinced my aunt to go with me, but then they started invoking the EA, and everybody started coming home. So we ended up not going. I mean, I was still doing protests and stuff all over the place. I just unfortunately couldn't make it to the convoy, but I was listening in on the CB the whole time they headed there. I was watching the live streams all day. And it was the first time I felt comfort. It was the first time
Mhm.
that I didn't feel alone. And um, I still do struggle to a certain degree with some of the things that some of my friends said to me. Like, I remember a conversation I had with my cousin and her husband, and they'll actually probably listen to this, but they're actually awake now, so I don't care. Um, but I remember when they first started saying that unvaccinated people were not allowed to have an organ transplant. And
Mm.
I
Mhm.
was sitting with them talking about it, and they said, well, it makes sense. You need a vaccine to get an organ transplant. And I was like,
Why?
tell, tell me why it's so important now when I didn't need this vaccine 6 months ago.
Mhm.
And they said, well, because you need your vaccines. You need your vaccines to get an organ transplant. Something
But
could
why?
go wrong. And I'm like, oh,
And it's
okay, but it didn't go wrong 6 months ago.
Yep.
So
The
explain this to
frontline
me.
healthcare workers spent a whole year in hospitals, taking care of COVID patients without, dying off like
Right,
flies. So
right.
Oh, and let's not forget the truckers who were bringing goods across the border for how long, and then all of a
Right.
sudden needed a vaccine to do so.
And these were the stupid arguments that I was having with people. And I remember leaving their house that night and being so infuriated. Now I will say they were and I love them dearly, but they were two people that they never turned their backs on me. In the sense of, they wouldn't be my friends or anything like that, because I was unvaccinated. In fact, if anything, they respected my choice. But there was definitely some stupid arguments to be had between myself and them. And then it wasn't long after that, another friend of mine got pericarditis um, after she'd been vaccinated. And that kind of happened right as the vaccine side effects were starting to roll out. And so, anyways, all that to say, I was in a very lonely spot. I really didn't feel like I had anybody. I remembered that I had a Twitter account from, I actually had started it in 2012 and had never used it. And so I did the whole forgot your password thing. I got the app and loaded it up, and I went on and I just started looking and trying to see if there was anybody else out there. And actually, one of the first accounts that I ever really, really, really loved was Albertan Beach. She's awesome, and she's hilarious. Her tweets are hilarious. And I remember this is early on in 2020. Like I want to say this is probably early May. I was kind of had started to get into Twitter, and I started reading her tweets, and a lot of her tweets really made sense to me and caused me to question things more. And then Comrade Pierogi, she was one of the originals as well. And
yeah, she was one of my first follows too.
Yeah, she had done a tweet, and I wish I could remember it. Her and I have since talked, and I have shared this with her, but she had done a tweet about questioning things, and I can't remember what exactly it said, but it just really sat with me. And then that's when I really started to get into kind of the Twitter side of things. And I really was just trying to joke about the ridiculous rules and how stupid shit was. And people started listening for whatever reason. Why? I don't know. But as people listened, it kind of, I started to realize there was a community here, and there was people that I wanted to have in my life. And, whether that meant digitally or, I have been fortunate enough to meet quite a few of them in person, yourself included. But that's really where the Twitter thing started. And it's just kind of gone from there. And now it's turned into this amazing community of these awesome people.
Yeah. Like my first follow was Intentional Glitch, and me and him are still friends, very, very close to this day.
And he's an amazing guy too. And Wabbit. Like and the three of us.
Shout out to Wabbit.
Yeah.
Shout out to Wabbit. Shout out to Glitch.
And we were all fortunate enough to be able to actually get together and meet each other not too long ago, which was so cool. And to actually have hugs with these people that you've been fighting alongside for, at this point, for a lot of us, it's been years now. Like I've been there since I'm going to say before June 2020. So,
we all had that sense of we were losing like that loneliness where you're losing these connections that you have because the people that have been in your life are not aligning with you, not sharing those same values, etc. And it's beautiful to be able to find that community, even if it's online and we can't actually meet certain people in person or whatever, but just to know that community is there, and a lot of us do have each other's back when we need to be, right?
Well, and it kind of, I think for a lot of people, it kind of wiped away some of those tears and kind of, I don't want to sound sappy, but like it mended our hearts a little bit to where,
absolutely,
we felt like we had people again.
Yeah. And, as much as like I went through a dark time and my hubby went through a dark time, I wouldn't change anything because I think that the relationships and friendships that we've established since are so they're so much deeper because we have it's not just a friendship of convenience due to either being family or like a proximity to, like a geographical proximity. They're people who are like-minded with you. So there's like a depth of friendship there that is quite amazing.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I'm with you. I wouldn't change anything. I would cry every single tear again, and there was a lot of them. And I would feel all of that fear again. If it meant, you know, that I would see all of you guys at the end of it, because it was so worth it. It was such an experience, and it's still an experience. It's still an experience
Yeah.
because we're learning new things every day, and these conspiracies and everything else that are coming true. We're all kind of collectively waking up, and it's so cool to see.
While we're giving shout outs, I also want to give a shout out to Kevin gov.exe is corrupt, because he actually was the first one to invite me into a group chat.
One of the group chats.
Yeah,
and he invited me to my first one too. Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin. And it meant like so much to me because I'm a wee little account still on X, and so like to be brought in and instead of like just interacting under posts or tweets at the time, to be able to just chat with people casually, just about whatever was, I mean, that was a game changer for me too, because I felt like I got to find my peeps in a different way than just like a little joke or a meme here and there. It was like actually getting to know people. So shout out, Kevin. The end.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how it's brought so many people together, and I think we're all so fortunate to have been able to find each other and build those relationships. And I hope that continues. I know for the three of us it will, because we're podcasting, but
we're in it now.
Yeah, there's no turning back. There's no turning back.
No turning back, bitches. I say we go find that island, Tammy. I think you found the island that was for sale. Like I think we should just buy it. And like,
I legit am looking for islands for sale all the time, because I'm like, I have a dream. I have a dream.
I think we should just take Australia back, because it was founded by 4 convicts, and we're all unacceptables anyway. So if we all just like moved over to Australia, we could just live our own lives there.
They get snow there, don't they?
Well, some places maybe, but
don't know. But also, lest we forget that Australia had some of the harshest COVID restrictions.
Well, yeah, we'll kick the commies out.
No, we need to take it over, she said, Tammy. We need to take it over.
Yeah.
I say we just find some stranded.
This is a joke, people. I'm not talking about overthrowing any governments. Just calm your tits, people. Calm your tits.
Ashley's going to be arrested later today. Yeah, the authorities will be showing up on her doorstep.
Vacant island, and stormtroopers are going to bust down your door.
Listen, I've been looking at these islands, and there's a lot of them that already have electricity and everything. We just need to go. And if you look at some of the posts where people have responded, we've got skill sets. Like, we could do it.
Houses will be built. We're good. How many people do we need to be able to afford this island?
So it depends which one we go with. I'd have to crunch those numbers again. But basically, we found an island that was like 78 acres for. It was under $1 million. So I was like, you know what? This would actually be cheaper.
Are you joking?
No, I'll find
78 acres of our own island for under $1 million.
100%. 100%.
And shout out, 3 of us can do that.
Shout out to Starman Matt, because Starman Matt is all over this buying the island thing, and him and I talked.
Oh, I love Starman Matt.
Yeah, he's so awesome. And he's always reminding me, like, don't get too sad, don't get too angry. We're going to this island. So he's all for it too. There's a lot of people that want to do it. And if you go through the threads, I think probably about 90% of them are actually serious. So I think it's doable.
I'd be serious.
So would I.
I'm serious. Yeah, I'm totally serious. Make it happen.
I mean, I've been putting the posts out there. I don't know how we actually start it. If anybody out there knows, please.
We make an offer.
Leave something in the comments.
Set up a corporation.
and make an offer.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but who takes care of all the monies? That's important.
Trudeau. He's good
Oh.
with money.
Oh God, this is failing already. This idea is failing already.
Our bank accounts are going to be frozen by the end of the day.
Yeah.
Fuck.
That's all right.
Okay,
I
I
have
don't have
nothing
much.
in there
I
anyway.
don't have. I was just gonna say I don't have much in there anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah, mine all went to paying carbon tax. So
Yeah. I spent the last of my money on plastic straws.
oh, I've got thousands of them.
Of course.
Thousands of them.
When I run
That's
out,
no
you guys
joke.
can share, okay?
The
Oh,
key
Suze,
is to go to Popeyes. They never switched.
I was somewhere the other
Oh.
day. They still had plastic straws too. I can't remember where the heck it was now.
Amazon is selling them by the thousand.
Straws.
My
And
thing
all-
is,
For Amazon.
you know those like
Yeah.
the sippy cup type of lids that they have for like the ice caps? Why don't they
Yeah.
just switch to that?
Mhm.
Because like the lid for
You mean
drinks is still
the
plastic.
plastic lids.
But I mean
the-
the lid is already still plastic, but they just shove a friggin' stupid paper
Paper straw in
through
it. My
Wrapped in
kids'
plastic.
apple juice boxes. My kids' apple juice box has a paper or cardboard freaking straw now.
They
So
switched to paper.
The case, the case of apple juices is still wrapped in plastic.
Of course it is.
And then you got this stupid paper freaking straw trying to stab this box. It's ridiculous. Completely ridiculous.
Like, make it make sense. I can't anymore. It's something new every day. Honestly,
make
the
anything, any
only
of
good
this.
thing about it is how stupid it is. It makes for good jokes. Like, even if
Yeah.
you're not a comedian, the material is there for the taking.
There's too many memes for me to make. Like I can't keep up.
I know. Like, I don't know if anybody saw the tweet that COVID, and that's a COVID parent. Huge shout out to
Mhm.
COVID
Yeah.
parent.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
He is one of my most favorite people on this planet. He put out a screenshot of an article today that was oyster flatulence worries climate scientists.
Come
This
on.
shit is real. You can't make this shit up. He
Come
doesn't even
on.
need to add anything to that. Just post the article, and that's basically what he did. All he put was breaking oyster farts cause global boiling. Like he's just
What do oyster farts smell like?
better than Justin Trudeau's moist breath. Oh,
Oh God.
but you don't even have to try for material anymore. Like he basically just took the headline and put it as his tweet, and
It's
away
true.
it went.
It's the most ridiculous. Literally, you like just follow CTV News for your content.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
Yeah.
100%.
Just writes
100%.
itself. Yeah.
There's never been an easier time in the history of social media to be a content creator. Never.
Right.
Absolutely. And they don't even understand how hypocritical it is. We've gone from critical thinking to hypocritical thinking.
Mhm.
Like it's just ridiculous.
I want to know like who's working for these outlets and like who put that article out? Who put out the oyster flatulence article and did it without dying laughing?
Who the fuck is studying oyster farts anyways?
Apparently it's a thing. There's a market. There's a market.
Oh man.
It doesn't say what news outlet it was, but no, I'm just looking now. It doesn't say what news outlet it was, but it's legit, and people are putting this stuff out. They're putting it out there for the world to see, and they're doing it in a serious manner.
The world is clown world. There's
100%.
no getting around it. Clown world, but with no bouncy castles.
Well, on that note, maybe
On that note,
we should finish off here with oyster farts.
I mean,
Agreed.
it's a good end.
It's a good end, oyster farts. it's been nice hearing everybody's, like kind of backstories and where what kind of brought us all here.
Do we want to talk a little bit quickly about what our listeners can expect from us in the future? Like what direction we want to
Yeah,
go?
go for it.
Yeah.
So I think basically we, as much as like, obviously we do have a political bent, we, we also want to just talk about lots of like anything that's kind of happening around us, including like health and wellness. We want to get some guests on the show. So even anyone who's listening, like give us suggestions. We're always happy to hear what people want to talk about. And anyone else have anything to add about, kind of what direction we're going?
I think there's a lot of stuff that has happened over this last year in particular that we need to go back and revisit. So one of the things I want to do is do like a rewind episode where we maybe go back and look at, and Ashley, I know this one is near and dear to your heart because I got the phone call at like 9:00 at night about it. Matthew Perry's death.
Ooh, yeah.
I think there's stuff that we need to kind of rewind and go back and revisit and break it down, talk about it. It'd be kind of cool if we could get some guests on even to talk about some of that stuff. So, any of the major events that have happened, if there's listeners out there that are well researched on them or think they might want to come on as a guest, send us a message. I'm not promising that everybody's going to get on, but definitely we'll want to hear from people and try to get as many people as possible on so that we can have some good conversations about this stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Another thing that I really want to delve into is what the fuck is winter vagina?
Oh yes, that's an episode all in its own, man. All in its own. I'll tell you all about winter vagina.
I am well read.
Not that I have it. I don't have it. It's not an actual thing.
Sure, Sue.
But I've done some research. I've done some deep dives and some rabbit holes. And
Suze has frozen shoulder, not frozen vagina.
I do have a frozen shoulder, yes, but definitely not a winter vagina.
Yeah, I also have done some extensive research into that, and it's interesting to say the least. So
yeah,
all right. So there you go, peeps.
I have some theories, but that's for another time, another day. We will discuss all of those. Well, ladies, this has been quite the nice little slice of misinformation, I must say.
I do agree. I concur.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope you all enjoyed.
Thanks, everyone.
Will be back. We're going to try to do hopefully like a weekly thing, but we'll be back to give you some more propaganda, some more misinformation. So be sure to stay tuned, and we'll catch you all next time.